What's up, guys? Chapter 561 was amazing as usual. When is a Naruto chapter not amazing? I know some of you trolls out there, but let's just ignore the trolls and focus on the good shit. Anyway, so it starts out where last week's left off, and we see the meteor coming down toward the Alliance, and they're like, ah, shit! And then Unaki's like, we cannot give up, we have to do everything we can. And right after Unaki says, we have to do everything that we can, he used the word we, so I'm assuming he meant to everybody. He's like, we have to do everything we can, don't be a coward. Gaara's like, all of you get the hell out of here! So, I mean, they're a little contradicting right there. But either way, so Gaara's like, get the hell out of here! And the ninjas pretty much listen to Gaara. They're like, fuck you, Unaki! And they're like, they start running. And Unaki still goes into badass mode, but we'll talk about that in a second. And we see Kabuto and Mu, we see Kabuto talking through Mu to Madara, and he's like, hey, yo, Madara, dude, bro, bro, that asteroid's gonna crush us too, we're kind of standing here. Maybe we should move or something. And then Madara actually says something really interesting. He goes, the impure world resurrection was originally intended to wipe the map clean along with the caster. And I didn't see a lot of other reviewers talk about how interesting that was that he said that, but I just wanted to focus on it for a couple of seconds because, remember, Madara was around when Tobirama, Hashirama's brother, created the impure world resurrection technique. And a big question on everybody's mind was always, why would a good guy create the impure world resurrection technique and bring people back from the dead like that? And, they could fight and do all that other kind of stuff. So I thought it was cool, nice little hint into why the technique was originally created, even though I have no clue what it means by what he said. But I thought that was cool just to kind of point that out and think about it for a second. You guys should actually post a comment on what you think he means by that. Anyways, he tells Kabuto, he's like, don't worry, we'll regenerate soon enough, just relax. And then we also see in this shot, and pretty much every single shot for the rest of the chapter until the asteroid hits, that Madara is still surrounded by Susanoo. And you can clearly see it, in the panel where he's standing next to Mu. But we'll talk about that a little bit later, but it's a really important kind of cool thing. And also note he still has the Rinnengan active. So we see Unaki flying up to the asteroid, and Madara's like, whoa! It's a bird, it's a plane, it's a flying shinobi! And then he's like, oh, hey, that's Iowa's Ryotobin little brat. So I thought it was pretty cool that Madara remembered him, remembered Unaki from way back in the day. So the Tizukage flies up to the asteroid in midair, he grabs the front of it, and he's like, Earth release, ultra lightweight rock technique. And the asteroid becomes lighter, but it's still obviously heavy and going fast. So it's pretty much the same technique he used to make Gaara's sand lighter and make Mu's arms heavier when they thought they had sealed Mu. And out of nowhere, they managed to stop the asteroid with the help of Gaara's sand. Then out of nowhere, Madara's like, haha, good fight. How you gonna deal with the second one, brah? And he goes, and another asteroid comes and hits the back of the first asteroid. And Unaki has his head pressed up against the first asteroid, and then the second asteroid hits the first asteroid, and it's like, ah! So we think Unaki's pretty much screwed right there. So the scene changes over from there to the Allied Forces HQ, and they're like, why would the masked man claim that he was Madara? And Tsunade's like, well, Madara's more than a man. No, I'm just kidding. I was going to quote One Piece there, but never mind. He goes, Madara's more than a man. He's an ideal. So even if Toby was just lying, the world would fear the ideal of Madara, and the name Madara itself is power. Powerful, and she goes, powerful enough to drag us all into war, because he said he was Madara. And she goes on to say how they were all played for suckers, and she's kind of like, damn, we got played for suckers. And then all of a sudden, HQ feels an earthquake from the second asteroid hitting, and Shikamaru's dad is like, there's no mistaking it. This has to be Madara's jutsu. And I thought that was really interesting because now, I don't know if it means that when Shikamaru's dad said that, if it was a specific jutsu to Madara that they know that was in Madara's arsenal. But this has to be, alright, so he says this has to be Madara's jutsu. Because he goes, it's pretty much because it's the only jutsu that could cause that kind of destruction right now. But I'm leaning toward they know Madara's specific jutsu, and I'll tell you why. Alright, so in the next, and I'll tell you why in a second. Just give me a second, okay. So we see Tsunade, and she's like, she's like super pissed off face, and she looks really hot right there. I'm just gonna come out and say it. Tsunade looked pretty hot, and she's like super pissed off, and she's like, I'm heading out. And, so hopefully she does better than she did in the Pain and Orochimaru fight. I'm just saying, I don't see how she's going to be a lot of use considering how we've seen her fight before against Pain and against Orochimaru. But granted, against Pain, she was at an even a bigger well, I don't know, that's just... and hopefully also the fact that she's coming out to the field and she's going to see Madara, being that Shotomai, or Hashirama, the first Hokage, was her grandfather, I think that might be, we're finally going to get to see some cool backstory on the Senjus. At least that's what I'd really like to see, because she's a Senju, and that was her grandfather and everything. So, we've gotten a lot of backstory on the Uchihas and their clan and all cool stuff like that. I'd like to see some on the Senju. So we see a big kick-ass panel of the first asteroid, and it looks like the second asteroid's like sticking out of the back of it, and it's all cracked up, and it looks like the battlefield's completely gone to hell. And Naruto's clone got saved by the rubber dude, and he's like, "Why did you save me?" And the rubber dude's like, "Well, I kind of hate to say it, but even as a clone, you're more valuable than those other noobs. So screw them, just saved you." And then Naruto's like, "Oh snap, is the Tizakage okay? Is the Tizakage okay?" And we see the Tizakage lying on the ground with Naruto running toward him. And the ninja by Unagi says he's severely injured, and we get a really sick-looking shot of Madara and Mu regenerating, and then we see Madara's eye with the Rinnegan active. Alright, now here's where it gets interesting, and I'm going to explain a lot of stuff, okay? After Kabuto's done going all fanboy over the Sage's power, Madara says, "This isn't a view which I've enjoyed for a long time." And he's referring to the battlefield looking all destroyed and messed up, which to me makes sense now, because of Shikamaru's dad. I'm going back to what Shikamaru's dad says. He says this was Madara's jutsu, making us think that it's a Madara-specific jutsu. But the asteroid looked exactly like a bigger version of Nagaro's Bansho Tenin from chapter 549, page 9. So go back, check chapter 549, page 9, and you'll see Nagaro's Bansho Tenin, which fits perfectly into the place of Madara or Tobi or whoever gave Nagaro Madara's Rinnegan. Because if it was known as Madara's jutsu, then Nagaro was giving Madara's Rinnegan, then he'd be able to use the same jutsu. And being that so far all we know about is Madara having the eyes before Nagaro, I mean, that just fits perfectly into place. I mean, even if it is an EMS jutsu, if it was Madara's jutsu, because remember when he fought Hashirama, he didn't have the Rinnegan yet, he only had EMS. So even though the fact that Nagaro didn't have EMS, he was given Madara's eyes, and Madara's eyes had EMS before they transformed into the Rinnegan, and Nagaro was given Madara's Rinnegan, so it would make sense that he would be able to still use the same jutsu. So that's just something that I was thinking of. How it all pretty much fits into place. So back to the chapter now. Madara asks Kabuto, he's like, "Hey, how much do you know about me?" And Kabuto pretty much confirms what we already know, that right after his battle with the first at the Valley of the End, he didn't die, and that even though he lost the battle, he gained a portion of Hashirama's strength. So Madara like looks down his shirt and he checks out his body. He literally goes like this. He goes, "I see you prepared well." He's like, "I guess you prepared well," which probably has to do with Kabuto saying that he made some improvements to Madara's body, like he said that he did. Made it more special than a regular Ito. Then Madara asks Kabuto if he knows our plan, with the R referring to Tobi, Madara and Tobi. And Kabuto says, "Not in detail, but I'm on your side." And the "your" was emphasized, probably to Madara. The "your" was emphasized, which I'd consider foreshadowing, because if Kabuto thought he had 100% control over Madara, or that Madara wouldn't be revived later, he wouldn't need to emphasize his loyalty, because he wouldn't have to worry about it. He could just control Madara. It doesn't matter. So I'm pretty sure that's Kishi giving us a hint that Madara won't be an Ito forever, and that sooner or later he's going to break out of it or be revived back to life, super powerful or something like that, by whatever jutsu or Rinne Tensei, whatever happens. I'm pretty sure Madara is going to get revived back to life, because that is some crazy foreshadowing right there if you look into it. About Kabuto, like, basically saying, "I'm on your side." So anyways, Kabuto tells Madara that he's unsure if Tobi will act as planned. So Kabuto finally notices that some people survived the asteroid, and is not surprised that the Tizakage and the Kazekage survived, and he asks Madara what he wants to do. So Madara's like, I want to make sure of something real quick. And he goes, "Summoning Jutsu!" And he goes to summon the fox, and Naruto's stomach's like, "Ah, my stomach, it burns!" And the fox is like, "This is Madara's chakra! It's not good." Sorry, I had to... Was that a good fox? Tell me if that was a good fox representation in there. So anyways, Madara says to Kabuto, "It appears that you have not captured the Kyuubi yet." And Kabuto's like, "Oh, LOL, that's actually the point of this war, bruh." And at the moment, the Kyuubi is inside that kid right over there, sitting down. That's Uzumaki Naruto. And Madara recognizes the Uzumaki name. He's like, Mito's clan. And Mito's the first Hokage's wife, for those of you who didn't know. Kabuto says it would be easy to capture him, but he's just a clone. Do you want to grab the real one? And Madara's like, "Whoa! I just got here. Slow down, bro. There's a jutsu I want to try out, and it'll work better with lots of fodder ninja, I mean people around." And then, out of nowhere, Madara goes, "Wood release! Jukai Kujan!" And a gigantic forest, like, he literally like that, and the gigantic forest just, like, starts springing out from behind them and going toward the allied forces. And it was like, whoa! And, gigantic forest just starts springing up, and Naruto's like, I don't have any chakra, what am I gonna do? Now, back to the Fox's oh shit mode. He's like, Naruto, take my chakra, do something with it. I frickin' hate Madara, and if it comes down to it, I'd rather give chakra to you than be controlled by that son of a bitch. So Naruto's like, hey, that sounds good to me, because Naruto was a little suspicious that the Fox might have just been trying to take over his body. But yeah, but then the Kyuubi explained it that he just hates Madara. And then Kabuto's all like, I'm surprised Madara was this good of a trump card. It's like, duh, he's fucking Madara. I mean, even Sawyer pointed that out. I mean, come on. So, go ahead. Where the fuck was okay. So, anyways, Naruto's like, Super Multiple Shadow Clone Great Rasengan Super Barrage Jutsu! And he goes, like, a whole bunch of Great Rasengans, and he hits the forest, and it stops the forest from advancing. The forest was, like, going toward killing all the allied forces, and he used up all of the Fox's chakra on all those clones and Rasengans to stop the forest from coming forward and killing them all. And Madara's still chilling there. He doesn't even look like he's used up any chakra. He's just like, But he goes, you know, that kid really is something. And Kabuto's like, you agree? And I thought that was pretty cool. So anyways, Naruto's like, I'm out of chakra. What am I going to do? And the Tizakage gets up and he's like, alright, it's time to get business started. Naruto, relax, I got this. And then the Tizakage just totally goes into badass mode earlier, kind of like the same way Tsunade did. So we're going to see the old Kages put in some work. And we see his face and he's like, the time to pick myself up off the ground is finally here. And there's no opponent more worthy. Referring to Madara. So I thought that was absolutely, totally kick-ass, and I think we're going to see Tizakage coming out, as well as Tsunade on their way to the battlefield next chapter. One other thing I wanted to address from earlier in the chapter is how we saw that Susanoo was still around Madara until the asteroid actually hit, and what that tells me is that Susanoo is susceptible to enough brute force, because Susanoo was completely active, go look at the chapter, until the asteroid hit, and then after the asteroid hit, Susanoo's not there anymore. So that tells me that Madara still had Susanoo around him. Obviously, he may not have been pouring all of his chakra into it to defend himself, but it does tell me the fact that it does look like Susanoo can be destroyed by brute force if enough is applied. So that also tells me that Susanoo may be susceptible later on to a super mega giant great ball humongous Rasen Shuriken Super Saiyan 4 Kamehameha wave. And we might see Naruto break through Sasuke's or Madara's Susanoo at one point in time, or one or the other. Somebody breaks through it. Next chapter is Tsunade on the battlefield. Tizakage kicking some ass. Tizakage is going to die soon in a few chapters. I would like to say that my last chapter review, I did kind of call it. I said that the Tizakage was going to use up what looked like the last of his chakra to save everybody. Although I did say that he would do it by using a Jinton or a dust technique, but that didn't happen. He did just make the asteroid lighter, but I was still pretty much right. Come on. So all in all, absolutely great chapter. 10 out of 10 as 10 out of 10. The fuck. 10 out of 10 as usual. If you guys would do me a big favor and thumbs up the video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already subscribed to it yet. I pointed up here because there's probably going to be a subscription annotation up here that you guys can click to go ahead and subscribe to my channel real easy. Feel free to check out the rest of my videos as well as the One Piece and Bleach review I'm doing today. I'll probably make some Naruto theory reviews sometime this weekend as well. Thank you guys so much for watching, and let me know your thoughts on the chapter and comments on this review below.